Okay, guys, I'm not sure if I'm live. Ah, excellent. Looks like I'm live. Okay, guys, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and we're going to get straight into this workshop. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm estimating probably like an hour, maybe there or about. It might take a little bit longer depending on how things go. Just off screen right now, just updating my Instagram handle. Definitely check me out on Instagram. I have some fun snippets there as well. But primarily you can find me on LinkedIn for my software services and Fiverr. But with that out of the way, more on the Fiverr stuff later. I want to get straight into what we're doing here. As you can see on the screen, I'm just going to adjust my off-screen display. Guys, welcome to the video. My name is Will, and it has been a few months since I posted on the channel. I've been busy with university. I'm still enrolled in university. But for the meantime, and my display is sending me a message right now. I'm going to just see if I can write that one out for now. My screen might actually go blank, so I'm going to sort that out. But anyway, we're going to do something quite fun today. We're going to be looking at Win2D. I'm just going to reset my display here. Sorry, guys. It's going to be a pretty chill stream, as you probably kind of guessed so far. But I'm going to be using CSharp.net, Visual Studio, and I'm going to be coding the foundations of a very simple, should I say, gaming experience, a 2D game. I want to sort of target this HD 2D experience, as you've probably seen on the channel before. Um, so that's the kind of format I'm going for in terms of the visual art style. I hope the display isn't jarring right now, as I just had to reset my primary monitor. I'm going to double check my OBS. Yes, it has gone off a little bit. Sorry, guys. Apologies for that, for the screen just there. But yeah, let's get straight into this video. I have a little bit of an agenda, and on the channel, I have done some videos and live streams regarding Win2D, regarding how to develop 2D experiences in Win2D. So this video is going to be no different in a sense. However, this will take things post fundamentals. I would like to take this little mini series a little bit further than I have before, but then I thought it would make sense to start from the ground up again. That's why I have an empty Visual Studio project. As you can see, I have XAML on the left here, I have my agenda on the right, and we're basically starting from scratch. And so let's just jump straight into this tutorial. So you know what? For those of you who may not have been following through with the channel, maybe you're just passing by, I might as well give you a tiny primer as to what Win2D actually is and what I'm doing today. So I'm going to put the documentation up on the screen actually. Do excuse me. And this is the Win2D documentation. And probably better said if I just read off the paragraph here. Win2D is an easy-to-use Windows runtime API. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit there. For immediate mode 2D graphics rendering with GPU acceleration. Yes, so Win2D is available, as it says here, on C Sharp and C++, and VB developers can access Win2D as well. We're going to be focusing on the C Sharp flavor of Win2D. Speaking of flavors, it's going to be the UWP version that we're using. There are two versions in particular. There's the WinUI version of Win2D, and there's the UWP version of Win2D. Do excuse me. Because I'm going to be programming on the Universal Windows platform, I am targeting the UWP flavor of Win2D. Might have to reference this documentation perhaps. As you can see, I can vouch for the fact that Win2D is a very neat and robust library. If you do want to create quick graphics, smooth, fast graphics for games that support experiences such as side scrollers, you can make RPG adventure games, fighting games, you name it, as long as you're dealing with the realms of 2D. Okay, with that out of the way, what am I going to do? I'm going to hop straight back into my Visual Studio. All right, so setting up Win2D for UWP. Let's start here. So once you get your Visual Studio environment set up, I'm using Visual Studio version 2022. What you want to do is to go and click on the Tools tab, go onto NuGet, and go into Manage NuGet Packages for Solution. Got a bit of a cough. Sorry about that, guys. Excellent. Drink some tea today. And what are we doing on this Windows? So I've already got Win2D installed. If I just go to the install tab, we should hopefully see Win2D over here. So, oh, maybe I did not install it. Okay, fair enough. So what we're going to do, this is good timing. On the search bar, I'm going to simply write Win2D. I'm going to click it there. I'm going to wait. And here we go, Win2D UWP, just as we saw via the documentation. I'm going to go ahead and click this. So remember, it's not the Win2D for WinUI, as you can see here. The WinUI download has like 1.6 downloads. Sorry, 1.6 million downloads. But this Win2D for UWP, a little bit more downloaded at 5.11. So we're going to click the UWP version. I'm going to target my project, and we're going to take the 1.27.1's latest stable build, and I'm going to hit install. Should have done this earlier, but sorry guys, but I might as well show you guys what's going on here. For those of you who may be completely new to Win2D. Gonna hit apply. I've accepted the terms of the license. And we're just going away. Hopefully there's enough space on my machine. I've been doing a lot of work and stuff. I was running a bit low on space, but it looks like everything is Win2D has been installed. As you can see, there's a green tick there. If I go to installed, Win2D.uwp is now an installed package on my project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tick this off because we have succeeded in setting up Win2D for UWP. And what I would like to do is to turn your attention, guys, to the main page.xaml. So what we're going to do is now we want to set up the canvas animated control. And the canvas animated control, I think my levels are a little bit high, so please do let me know if there's a bit of clipping in the sound. I'm getting a kind of a high signal there, but hopefully everything's okay. Anyway, as I was saying, the canvas animated control is a XAML control that we can draw/render 2D graphics to. And what I find is a good way to start this off is to set the namespace in XAML level, set the control itself via XAML, and then we program via the C# files. Okay, so let's start here. I'm referencing another project of mine off screen just to make things a little bit easier here. So I'm just going to go off screen to my Notepad++, such that I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to type it out so it makes a bit of sense as I'm doing rather than just copy and pasting a lot of code. So I'm going to set an XML namespace. And I'm going to call it canvas. And the namespace is going to reference using :Microsoft. I really do hope you can see the code. I did zoom in a little bit before, so I'm not sure if the XAML was zoomed in. I was in the other file. Microsoft.graphics, and I think it might be here somewhere actually. Graphics.canvas.ui.xaml. So we want this. That's all done and dusted. Excellent. So I'm going to just scroll in my reference, but I think I can just about hack this myself. Let's just see. Hope I haven't forgotten this. So I like to use a view box for a lot of my code. Or should I say for a lot of my to group a lot of my XAML controls. I think ViewBox is quite fluent compliant, if I'm not mistaken, which is just a UI standard for Microsoft applications. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to expand this view box, and the view box can only contain one child element. But that's fine because we're only going to have one canvas animated control. So I'm going to go ahead and write canvas. Let me see if I'm doing this correctly. If I go for canvas animated control, as you can see there on the screen, the canvas animated control is via the canvas namespace, which we have created here. As you can see in brackets canvas, which as I've written there. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. So I'm going to hit X, name. I'm going to say main canvas animated control. Hopefully I can zoom in slightly. Oops, my computer might be running a little bit slow. There's a few applications in the background. And I'm going to close the parenthesis. As you can see here, canvas animated control. Now, typically, I find that I get this error, a build error. usually, as the IntelliSense, or rather the error will suggest, building the project may help. But just before we do that, I want to actually set the dimensions. I suspect this error might be something to do with the directories, and so that's why building helps. So let's go ahead and just set the dimensions. Right now, I'm working in 200% scale. I actually prefer 100% scale. I like to work with smaller numbers in as much as I can, in terms of like resolution, and just scale up from there. I think that's a more scalable approach, arguably speaking, because it's sort of forward compatible with larger displays rather than building my app with a, let's say, like a 8K resolution, trying to backwards compatible or make the resolution backwards compat with like lower resolution displays. I think it's better to work the other way around, but that's just my limited sort of opinion there. So I prefer 100% scale. This is just going to be a simple example of this application overall. So I'm going to go for the 100% scale 1280 by 720. So 720p effectively. There's a 1080p full HD sort of display for 23-inch desktop target. I'm going to go for the 13.3-inch desktop target, which is kind of, the middle ground of resolutions all around right now. So that's okay. So that would affect the dimensions of which the canvas animated control is going to be. I'm going to set the height to 1280 and the width to 720 for the full scale of the viewport, although that doesn't seem to have actually fitted all together, which is fine. I think what I'm going to do is build the project first. And I'll just wait for my project to load. So this shouldn't take too long. And then once the main sort of housekeeping is out of the way, as I like to see this part of setting any Win2D environment, we're going to start going into the main coding. So I'm just waiting for my build over here. Hopefully things are okay. Just waiting for things to kind of come back. Build succeeded, 0 errors. That's great. All right. So the designer view is just kind of reloading now. And I'm just a little bit puzzled about the viewport. So I'm going to do... I think I know why. Perhaps it's because I haven't set the dimensions of my viewbox. So I'm going to go ahead and give a name to my viewbox. I'm going to say main viewbox. I'm going to give my viewbox a height of 1280. Is that 1280? Huh, it's strange because it's going off screen. It's kind of clipping. Again, I'm going to just set these dimensions first. Width 720, which is very fascinating. And I shall do the same for the grid as well. X name main grid height 1280. If that doesn't work, I'm just going to reduce the resolution in terms of the dimensions I'm setting here. Width 720. Yeah, that's way too much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play around with these numbers. 1080. Let's go down a little bit. Just strange because at 100% scale, these numbers should be fitting nicely into the viewport. I'm not too sure what's going on there. No worries, 900. Let's just drag this for now. I like to work with the XAML, but when it comes to this kind of tuning the dimensions, I just tend to go and just do what I need to do there. So I saw 720 there as the height, so that's fine. I think I know what I did wrong. Yeah, sorry guys. I set the height and width in reverse, so the height should have been 720, the width should have been 1280. I did it the other way around, so apologies. Easy. I made a very obvious mistake. I'm sorry. So I'll go and correct myself. So 720 height, 1280 width. Canvas animated control, height should actually be 720, and then the width should be 1280. I was at fault. Grid, okay, what control is that? So I'm looking at my page, I'm looking at my grid. My grid still looks a bit off. I haven't set the width is incorrect still, so 1280 there. I've got a margin property. So this margin is offsetting my grid as well. So I'm going to just reset that to 0 in a minute. So I'm going to say height is 720 for my grid. Now the margin offsets, the margin sort of creates an effective padding with your controls. I don't need a padding right now, so I'm going to set the left parameter to 0 and the right parameter to 0, and hence I've centered my control. Okay, so that's my canvas animated control added to my example. I'm going to just take this particular block off. Now we want to set animated resources, draw and update events. I'm going to save the project quickly. Okay, I'm going to just zoom out for my convenience a little bit. I'm just going to reference my notes quickly so I know what I'm doing. Okay, so what we want to do is, let's see if I can somewhat illustrate this perhaps. So I'm using an illustration application, a sketch app, just to kind of show you guys what I'm trying to allude to. Hopefully this will kind of help this demonstration overall. If I can find, yeah, there we go. Hopefully things don't lag too much. All right, so we have our canvas animated control. I'll just say canvas. And of course, when we boot our program, we want to basically set a few events. So I'm going to go ahead and write event. And we want to have our resources event allocated. Let's just say animated canvas plus equals new events. And there's also another event, and this one is for resources. So this is for all your assets effectively. You can use this event such that when you boot the program, your game, your title, the first thing that happens is that you allocate all your drawing assets. So, you know, your game sprites, your heads-up display assets and stuff at the beginning. There's a variety of ways you can approach this. Another event you want to trigger, so animated canvas plus equals new. You want to allocate your draw core event. And you also want to, so animated canvas plus equals new. You want to allocate your update event. Let me quickly check my OBS to just make sure things are coming up clearly. Oh, that looks about right. Okay, so all this happens at when you boot the program. So when booting title. And then what we want to do is basically say, okay, on disk, on hard disk, we have all our assets. That could be like a sprite sheet. Maybe we have background assets. It could even be audio files. It could be audio files referenced as file paths. So we have here assets. And we basically load our assets via this particular event. And this event trips at the start of the program. Although I'm thinking in my mind now, is there a way to actually trip this event again, in as much as it might be needed? Possibly. I've not really had to do that, if not seldomly. That's a word. maybe I've had to, discreetly call the resources, the canvas animated control load resources event discreetly, but it would have been, for me, quite seldom to have to do that. I think I might have done that once, I'm not too sure. But typically it's as the program loads. And as the name kind of suggests, draw and update, of course, you want all your draw logic. So animation routines, let me just move this out of the way. So animation routines, it could be you want to load your backgrounds, stuff like backgrounds and animations. You want the draw core to handle that. which is handled on a separate thread to the core Windows XAML thread, if I'm not mistaken. So all the XAML stuff is handled on a different thread. So you do want to make sure you handle your objects somewhat accordingly if you can. You don't want to be kind of parsing objects that reside in the XAML, maybe using like a traditional image control and trying to somehow pass that to your draw event here. You would just have like marshalling issues with respect to threading. And on the update call, you can have any kind of game logic. It could be AI, it could be like your computer behavior stuff. All your kind of computer logic will be here in the update event if you want to kind of create a sort of predictable structure for your framework. Okay, so I'm just going to make a new page. Okay. All right, so back to Visual Studio. And let me just quickly check my session just to make sure I'm on track with things. Excellent stuff. Sweet. Okay. I shall continue. All right. So first thing I want to do is to I want to set my animated resources event draw and also my update. Okay. So I'm going to just quickly off screen. I'm going to reference my notes. I'm just going to quickly just make sure I'm on track here. Sorry guys, just give me 1 second. Oh, that's the one. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll set a private protection level and zoom in slightly. And I will reference my canvas, main canvas, I think it's called CSharp. Sorry guys, I just got a little bit confused there. It's been a minute since I've had to do this. Okay, let's make a function. I'm going to call a function called load canvas resources. Let's just put it like this for now. I'm going to create the implementation of this function. So my laptop just catches up with me. A little bit slow. A private function, private void load canvas resources. Parenthesis, and I'll just what I'm going to do in this function is to set my events. So here I'll say main canvas animated control access. I'm going to access create resources. I'm going to instantiate a new typed event handler, and IntelliSense is giving me a handler. And as you can see, there's an overload that's expected here, which would happen to be the function that is hooked to this event. Just before I create a function to call, I'm going to create the other two events. So main canvas animated control, I'll say draw plus equals new typed event handler, and IntelliSense again gives me a hand, and I shall now follow suit for update. Main canvas animated control update. Oops. That's the update event right there. plus equals new typed event handler and I'll just set my overloads, or rather the constructor. And I'll set my semicolon. So I'm going to, it might be a good idea to talk a bit about file structure now. I quite like using a very loosely based MVC structure, and I say very loosely based. I use the term MVC, model view controller, very loosely because I'm only really just hinting at MVC. I'm just borrowing some concepts of MVC as with regards to my folder structure, my directories. But I'm not really going deep into the architecture of my program regarding MVC. That could even warrant another video. So what I'm going to do is in my project, I'm going to right click. I'm in the Solution Explorer. I'm going to look for, I think it's add, new folder, say models. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to make views, new folder, views, and then I shall follow suit for controllers. The interesting thing is I really do want the main page, XAML, to be as uninvolved in this whole program as possible. I really want to allocate logic such as drawing and stuff to appropriate classes. I want my main page to be rather lean. So what I'll do, under models, I'll keep things fairly simple. I'm going to add a new class. And I'll call this class, let me see, animated resources. And for the sake of visibility, I will make this class public. For the sake of being, like, for the sake of time, really. Okay. And what I'll do, let's copy this. I'm gonna head back to my main page. But before I'm in my main page, what I'll do is create my function. So I'm going to, I'll pass a constructor. Might need a constructor later down the line in the sense that there might be some members I want to pass into animated resources class from my main XAML class, but for now, there are no arguments to pass through my constructor. And I'm going to have, for now, a public void animated resources method. Overloads will be object sender, object e. And what I'm going to do is now reference this method in my main page via my event, my typed event handler for the animated canvas control create resources event. So first I'll make a reference to my models namespace. On the global scope, I'll say models. I'll access my class, animated resources. I'll declare my class, animated resources. And for the sake of time, I'm going to instantiate it up here. New animated resources. It's better to instantiate somewhere in the constructor also, because that way I can actually pass some members if I have to. So that's what I'm going to do. Animated resources. So I'm going to instantiate my animated resources class down here. So now I have a global reference to my animated resources class, which is in my models namespace. And then what I shall do is I'm going to reference my animated resources class. I'm going to reference the animated resources method. Don't need the brackets for this. And and then the error down here is eliminated. So if I follow suit, actually it's best to follow suit now, actually, just so I don't have errors hanging about. So therefore, what I'm going to do is in my models namespace, I'm going to create two more classes, respectfully, draw and update. Say animated draw. I made a folder on accident. I didn't mean to do that. New class. I want to make a new class. Animated draw.cs. And I shall make an animated update as well. Animated update.cs. Okay, so again, my animated update will be public. My animated draw will also be public. Excellent. So, what's next? If I look back on my XAML page, rather my XAML.cs file, let's handle the draw class. So I'm going to go to animated draw. I'm going to reference this class, but before I do such, before I reference this class, I'm going to make a constructor, public animated draw. And then what I'm going to do, I'll make a public void. I'll just say draw for now. And I'll also pass objects, two object parameters. And I'm going to reference my draw function right here. But first, I will pass a global reference. I'm using the models namespace already, so I don't need to recreate a reference. So what I'll do, this keyword there, this indicates that my member my member animated resources is in class scope, or rather in, I want to say globe, yeah, within class scope of this file. Animated resources, draw. I got a little error here. I think, did I make this public or private? I'm in the wrong, whoops, I'm in the wrong class. Okay, I made a mistake. I thought I had to reference the animated resources. I made a mistake. So what I'm doing, I'm going to actually, I'm in the same namespace but different class. So models, animated draw, animated draw. I'm going to instantiate my class. Animated draw. Right. Now, oops, don't mean to do that. I'm just going to reference this properly. Animated draw, and then there's my draw function. Sweet. I'm going to follow suit with what I did with the code for update. So I'm going to leave a comment as well. Oops. So I'm referencing animated update now. The name that I give to this member, to the class animate update, doesn't really matter. What matters, well, in terms of conventions go, yes, I do want to make sense. But at this point, as long as the code makes sense, generally speaking, the name is quite up to you. Animated update over there. And then I'm going to reference my animated update class. I'm going to reference, I don't see my, oh, that's because I haven't made the update functionality yet. So I'm going to go here, public animated update, create my constructor for this class. Again, I'm not really worrying about passing any parameters right now. What I do need to do is make a public void function, I think it's update. I'll name this update to follow suit with draw and animated resources. And again, I'm passing 2 objects. And I'll just check back in my main page XAML file. And as you can see, the IntelliSense shows up update. Place over here, update. Excellent. And I've got error somewhere, line 16, not sure what file. Animated resources, public void animated resources. It's because it's the name. I don't know why I named it that. Oh, snap. Oh, okay, I get it. Let me just write load. It's because it's animate resources the same as the class. So I'll go back and just amend my line of code here. Excellent. So now we've pretty much set up our loading resources environment. So what is going to happen is that once we boot the program, these members, I'm going to just add animate update here as well. So these 3 members are going to be instantiated in my constructor. And then once they're constructed, what I'm going to do, once my members are constructed, I'm then going to call load canvas resources. And what that does, it sets my events, create resources, draw, and update events for my canvas animated control, as you can see. And then we're ready to pass some information, some bitmap information to actually draw a scene. So we've set animated resources, draw, and update events. Now I'm going to set functionality to load asset resources. Right, so in order to do this, we're going to go to our animated resources class. Just going to reference my notes quickly. This part of the code base is going to be this part of the code is going to be a tiny bit involved, but it's not going to take that many lines of code to achieve what we want to achieve. So what we want to do, if I go back to my sketchboard, I don't know if the app is still out. I might press X. I think I pressed X. I should have left it out. I don't know what happened. But anyway, we want to basically load our assets at runtime and have our assets stored in memory, ready to be rendered. So we're going to need a few global parameters to help us. I might reload Sketchboard because it will really help me to illustrate the concept that I wish to implement, actually. See if I can do that. Do bear with me, guys. I'm just off screen right now. I'm going to get my Sketch app back up. Because this part, I have explained this concept of using lists or list of lists to basically order sprites, but it might be quite confusing, so I'm going to do my best to illustrate what I mean. Alright, so say that, let me see if this pen is okay, the brush is fine. I don't know, I'm pressing save. Anyway, yes, so we have animated resources. canvas animated resources. And we want to essentially load our assets. So, it could be .png files, rather not really PNG files per se. We're going to be loading canvas bitmaps. That's the name of the object. And in order to construct these canvas bitmaps, we are going to pass a file path to our stored asset. And I think what might be useful, now this is where things get creative, is say we have a list, and this list is called sprite sheet. And just before we give that a name, I will declare the type of list, which is going to be canvas bitmap. Canvas bitmap, so write like this. And I'll say sprite sheet. Okay, like this. Now, the thing is, if we do things this way, what we essentially have is a list containing sprites which are indexed from 0 going up. Depending on how many sprites I have a list of lists. Oh, sorry, I have a list of sprites over here. Now, this is fine. And in fact, this kind of a forward approach is good at the start. I'm going to take this kind of approach for loading up my sprites, because what I'm essentially going to do, I want to go into my file directory where all my assets are stored. Happens to be in the Apex folder. What I want to do, what I've done so far actually, might show you, is that I have all my assets and they're literally numbered, or rather they're titled, stored as 0, 1, 2, such and so forth. I think there's like 6 assets, 0 index, so that's 0 to 5. And that's literally the name that I gave my graphical assets. They're .png files. So 0.png up to 5.png. And there's a reason for this naming convention. And I have a few sprite animations for a character, like I think a ninja or a karate master. I'm not too sure. I have to double check the sprites. I got them sprites off the internet. Again, this is not an art lesson, but it's just to kind of illustrate the concepts. But I do wish to invest in some good quality assets later down the line. So by doing things this way, I'm essentially dumping all of these assets in one go into my program. Okay? Essentially just literally dumping them without much regards to order. Apart from the fact that my files are 0 index, as you can see, 0 index 0, 1, 2, up to 5. Now, why is my approach here, why can I argue that this may be good for what I'm doing? Well, the reason I want to do things this way is because if I create let's say within those 5 files, which I do have, I have a few, I think it's like 3 or 4, I'm not too sure. I have some character animations. So, how can I illustrate this? From slot 0, 1, 2, these are character animations. And then going up from there, I have some backgrounds and foreground assets. So I'm gonna just write BG for backgrounds. And I'm gonna pass this to a list stored as a string. So this string is gonna contain my my file paths. I'm going to order them in the list. But now, if I've dumped my assets literally just in a forward manner like this, but I want to start to organize things such that I can reference my assets dynamically and algorithmically without needing to hard code as much as I could, to reduce the level of hard-coded access and rely more on algorithmic dynamic access, what I'm going to do, see if I can illustrate this. So I'm going to have a list which actually contains another list, and this list is of string, like this. So this is where things get a little bit confusing. I got confused when I tried to do this implementation, but it did work in the end, which was very, very useful for me. So I have a list, right? And as you know, lists contain elements, 0 indexed. So I could say, okay, in my outer list, I could contain sprites for my character and sprites for my background. So in the first list, I can have here character sprites. And my character sprite assets could have, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different elements, 0 indexed, like this. That's my character sprites, maybe a ninja. But then in my second list, nested within my main list, or rather, the second entry in my main outer list could contain background sprites. And in my case, maybe I have like 2, so 0, 1, 0 indexed. So that's 2 sprites over here for background. So as you can see, the nested list holds the elements themselves, and the outer list holds the encompassing type of, should I say, I use the term type loosely, but the type of sprite. So character animation, it could be a ninja, it could be trees, it could be a background. But the way I'm organizing this is I'm having all my character from my asset dump. Remember, I'm just literally loading things forward. So I have like 5, 6 sprites. I'm literally saying, okay, 0 to 4 via, say, a for loop. I can place them here. And then let's just say 5, because it already says 0 to 4. Let's just make 6 as well. And so I'll just amend that. 5, 6. And then 5, 6 goes over here. And then what we have here is a structure whereby we have a structure here such that now we can use looping for a range of 0 to some limit, which is probably the count of our list. And now I can access each individual sprite discretely, knowing which element I'm looking at, depending on how you structured things, which heavily reduces the need to hard code to access your assets. Now you can rely on a dynamic approach to actually find your sprites. That's why I like doing things this way. So now that I've kind of illustrated that, I'm going to go to the implementation. Let me just quickly check off screen what's going on. Okay, so the first things first, I want to create my lists. So I'm going to go ahead and say private list. This is going to be, as I illustrated, a list of string. This is going to hold all the file paths, because at the end of the day, we're going to need to load the file paths, and it only makes sense to make the structure symmetrical to the canvas bitmaps. It just makes life easier. So we're going to have 2 lists of lists. It's possible that I only need 1 list of lists of canvas bitmap, but for now I'm going to do things this way. And I'm going to say, okay, let's just say sprite file paths, something like this. So I'll declare a list of lists, as you can see. And I'll just say list members. I'll leave a comment here. List members that reference assets to load for the program. And I'll say here private list again, list of list. And the thing about Win2D, it deals with these canvas bitmap objects that we need to pass. So I'm going to go ahead and say canvas bitmap. As you can see, I have a canvas bitmap object right here. I'm going to go ahead and give canvas bitmap a name. I'm going to say assets. I'm going to say assets. All right. And we're going to need a few other members here on global scope, because I'm going to create a for loop that's going to rely on some indexing, as we're going to kind of loop within our loop, if that makes sense, if I get to that. So before I get to that, to make things make more sense, I'm going to actually create my first function. And so such that things make sense, I will show you guys the directory for my art assets. So I'm off screen. I'm just going to grab the Solution Explorer right now. And then you have a much more clearer idea as to what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to make it a little bit smaller. So I have some better said, I have some royalty-free assets that I got from the internet. Shout out to CraftPix. I'm not sponsored, but they have some really good there's some really good sprites on CraftPix. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description after this. And as you can see, I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty neat, right? The animations don't look too bad as well. And then I have 2 idle animations indexed at 4, or rather titled at 4 and 5, as you can see. So my character here, the guy on the right hand side, you can see the animation for idle, just like up and down. Quite simple stuff. And I have a fairly simple background. You know, I got this off the internet. Google Images, a free image that I found online. The resolution is pretty high. I'm gonna have to reduce that if I have issues. I put it to 10,000 by 4,000. I was trying to play things safe, but I am at a resolution of 1280 by 720, so I might have to reduce this. And I have a background of like a very pixelated grass texture. I quite like the charm of pixel art, and although I would not class this texture as pixel art, I just gave a simple grass image that I found after a Google search. I found this texture. I just pixelated it via paint.net, and I'm going to use this as a grass kind of like foreground. And I have a background. I have a white background as well. It might help me to mask the horizon between the ground and the background, the sky background layer. So we have here in this file directory, which actually I'm going to need in a hot minute, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very conveniently named, such that our for loop doesn't have any issues. And the reason I'm using numbers will make a lot of sense if things don't make sense regarding my for loop just yet. I'm going to walk us through. I'm just referencing my notes. Right, so what I like to do, I like to have public properties accessing my private fields. I could do it now. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, and I think it is a good rule of thumb. So I'm going to say public. I'm just going to grab this, copy and paste. And there are advantages to using properties as well. So I have sprite file paths, but I'm going to make my property capital. I'm going to put a getter and setter. So I'm going to say get. Oops. Like this. I like to format my getter and setters like this for my C# members. And for the get implementation, I'm going to return sprite file paths. Excuse me. And for my set implementation, I'm going to say sprite file path. I'm going to set value. I'm going to set the value keyword right there. And there we go. And then I'm going to very similarly set my property for my assets member right here. to make sure this is of canvas bitmap. I'm going to give assets a capital A, and I'm going to return assets, but obviously I need to return the field, not the property. And then I'm going to set assets to value. So with these public properties, as you can see, I'm accessing my private fields. This is just a layer of protection. So it's kind of a good rule of thumb to get used to something like this. Let's say public properties accessing asset data. Alright, so now that I've set my properties, first things first, let me just look at my notes. Okay, this is where looping comes in. And what I'm going to do, excuse me guys, so I just took a little pause. I'm going to say private void load bitmap from file path. And so what I want to do is I'm going to need some kind of flag, perhaps. Let me just see if this makes sense. Now what I'm doing is a little bit naive, I think, just by looking at my notes. But I'm going to set a flag to help control what I'm doing. And I do try to avoid Boolean flags. I don't know if I need this. After I've written the code, I'll have a look to see if there's a better implementation. But for now, loop done equals to false. I really don't think this is necessary, but I'm just going to follow my notes. Where am I setting loop done to true in my notes? Okay, that's completely fine. So guys, it's probably a better implementation, but this is going to work as long as I do things correctly. So let's go straight into the for loop. So I'm going to loop through my outer list, and I'll just kind of denote outer list by capitalizing list over there of list, as you can see. So I'm looping through my outer list of my list of lists. So I'm looping through this list, and I'm going to populate, or before I'm even looping, I'm actually going to populate my list, but my outer list, and I'm going to populate my nested list. Now, if we go back to the file directory, what I want to load first, I want to group this information. So I want one list entry to be my shinobi/ninja just standing still. This will be indexed at 0. Then index at 1, I want my ninja running, so all these sprites. Then index at 2, I would like the background. Then index at 3, the grass, and then the white indexed at 4. The white background, as you can see over here. So I'm going to need to populate my list with 4 different slots. So the way I'm going to approach this, such that the program knows how many entries to create, I am going to make a public enum, enumerated list, and I'll say sprite sheet entries count, something like this. And I'll just set int as the type, even though int is inferred if I don't denote int over there, I believe. And I will say, okay, there are 2 frames of animation for my shinobi standing animation. So I'll say ninja, let's use the word ninja, ninja idle equals 2, and use comma. And then I'll say ninja running. I think there were 4 frames, but I'll double check. Then for the background, I'll just say BG for now. There was 1 frame. And then for the foreground, which is the grass, I'll just write grass actually. There's 1, and I'll just say white background, white BG background. There's 1, such. I'm just going to double check the ninja frames, my ninja running. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see. And the idle animation is 2. There's 1 grass texture, 1 background, and 1 white background right there. So 2, 4, 1, 1, 1. That seems about right. And so now I should be able to access this enumerated list, my sprite sheet entries count, such that when I make my for loop, I'm going to refer to my notes again. I'm going to say something like, for the range of 0, between 0 and, let me just see if I get this right. X is less than sprite sheet entries count. And I'm going to first load, let's load the background first. So I'm going to go for BG. I'm going to increment X. I know I made an error there. Oops, I'm not sure what happened. Is that because of my keyboard? No, I'm not blaming my keyboard now. So for the range of int X equals to 0, X is less than BG, and let me just check my error. Okay. Can I just typecast this? Yeah, that's fine. I'll just typecast that. I thought it was inferred I'm dealing with integers as I did here, but I'll just typecasting it is fine. Okay, so I have a range of 0 to 1, so just one loop essentially. And what I want to do here, let's go back to my notes. I want to populate my file path list. So I'm going to say sprite file paths, which is my list of list regarding my string list of list, and I'm going to add I'm going to add a new list of string, because what's actually happening here, this might be confusing, so I'll see if I can illustrate this. One sec, I'll just do this error. Just clear this page so I can see what's going on here. My laptop's going to be it's quite slow right now. Sorry about this, guys. Literally trying to click a new page. Give us like 5 more seconds. Okay, this took too long. Okay, now this is working. Just about my app is working. So I know it's a tiny bit confusing why I'm doing what I'm doing, but again, I have my list. So I referenced this list and I called the add function over here. So now we have a new entry in our list. So new list. Make sure I'm doing this right. I think I might have made a mistake. So what I'm doing here is that I'm populating my list of list, my outer list, with nested lists. But I think where I tripped up is that I have here in my solutions. Okay, cool. So I have here 1, the running animation, idle animation, 2, 3, 4, 5 different entries, and each entry has a different amount of sprites to add. So when I think about what I'm doing, I actually need an enumerated list, such as, say, nested list entries, and there's only 5 entries. Make sure I'm doing this in the correct order. And so what I need to do is now make sure I am referencing the correct member, which is going to be nested list entries, and that's going to be 5. Why is this? Because what we want to do, we want 5 of these entries. So new, 1, 2, 3, 4, and new once more. And then this is going. Then these entries are going to contain, oops, ninja, my ninja sprite idle, my ninja sprite running, and my backgrounds. Background, grass, and the white background. As such. And for each of these, once I access my nested list, then via for looping, I can then say, okay, Ninja Idle is Ninja Idle comprises of 2 sprites. Ninja Run there are 4 sprites comprising Ninja Run. Background is only 1 slot necessary, such and so forth. So that's why I actually tripped up on myself just now. Okay, so I've rectified this for myself. So 5 times, I'm going to add I'm going to populate this sprite file path in the outer layer. Okay. Once we've done that, what I want to do is actually populate. I would like to populate my entries, but what I can do is populate each entry as I'm populating the nested my nested outer nested list. It's getting so confusing to say this. So many nestings. So what I'm going to do within my for loop implementation, just going to quickly think about what I'm doing here. I'm going to use another for loop. Now I'm kind of deviating from my notes, hence why I had to take a minute to think about this. Let's say index 2, let's just say index equals 0, index is less than, I'm going to typecast my enumerated member, sprite sheet entries count, and I want to start with the background. Index plus. So as we can imagine, we populate 1 slot in my outer nested list, and then in the outer nested list, I want to create another loop. This is to create the slots for the nested list. Okay, the nested list population of entries. But what I need to be careful of here is when I'm accessing my file paths, I need to make sure I'm using the right index. So sprite file paths dot add. Now we have a choice. We can either access index, we can access X, which I should really name that index and this index 1 or something, index 2, but it's fine. I'll change that. So index underscore, because I like using underscores. So index underscore 0. I'm gonna change that now. so we could either use index 0 or index 1. What do you guys think? So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to do index 0, because bearing in mind, make sure I'm doing this right. Because remember, the reason I'm using this index to access as an accessing index for the outer list is that we are still populating this entry, our first entry over here. So we need to make sure the index stays at 0, as you can see. That's why I'm using this index 0. And once I start actually populating, so everything in the nest list, then I start using index 1. Okay, index 1. I'm going to minimize my sketch window. So now I'm going to add, let me just see what I'm doing here, my file path. Now, in order to reference my sprite assets, here's what I'm going to do. So there is a working directory that you can rely on when you're writing UWP applications, and I'll show you the syntax to access this a special file path, because what tends to happen if you use a folder, a local folder, or rather a public folder such as your documents, as you can see, your documents directory or pictures or something like that. What happens when you ship your app? This directory may be corrupted because there's no guarantee that any other machine using your application is going to have the same file structure. So the best way to go around this, I found, is to use the working directory of your application package, such that when you do go on to ship your app, you can still access all your files locally. All right, so the way I like to do this, I like to say app domain. I think it's okay, current directory, or current domain rather, base directory, and that will take us to the working directory of this particular project. But now, as you can see in a minute, I have a folder called what's my folder called? Assets. I have a folder called assets underscore unordered. So I'm going to see if this works. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna copy and paste because I'm getting symbols I don't need. So I'm gonna just write assets. I'm gonna concatenate my file path accordingly to my file path, my solution explorer. So I'm gonna use plus, get my double quotes up, assets. I hope I'm using the right one. I think it's the other way around. My keyboard's a bit weird, so I'm gonna use my laptop keyboard. And what is it called? Unordered assets, I think. I'll check it in a second. Where am I? Oh, it's actually assets underscore unordered. I'll rectify my string here. Underscore unordered, as I'm just literally just placing all my assets in one go, albeit with I have a little bit of order via my the way I named my files. Now, earlier I alluded to an explanation to why I'm titling my file 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is because when it comes to looping, using a indexing approach is very predictable. We can make use of the value of index 0, such that if I go on to say, okay, I want to access, let's see, I believe it was the background I wanted to work with first. I shall leave some comments. Actually, it's not going to make sense because this is dynamic. So what I'll do, I won't need to hardcode a string, but what I will do, I'll say index 0, toString, and then I'll concatenate the file extension, which is .png. Okay. Now there's a couple things to I have to bear in mind that with this loop assumes that I'm starting on 0. That's the first thing. So what this means is I just make sure everything's in order, and obviously what big should I say, the first asset is the ninja running. Is 0, 1, 2, 3, my ninja running, 4, 5, my ninja idle, grass, background, and a white background. So I need to respect this order, otherwise there's going to be confusion when I load my sprites. So I need to bear in mind that 0, 1, 2, and 3 is going to reference these sprites. So I'm going to take that into account. And the reason I'm taking that into account, because of course I don't want to load my background with my ninja. So in that case, instead of using the BG as my upper limit of my range, I'm going to use ninja running, which is 3, I believe. It's actually 4. Let me just double check this is correct. 0, 1, 2, 3. I think I should change that to 3, not 4, because I'm 0 indexing. This might have to be 4 as well. Let me double check. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine for now. If I get errors, I'll rectify 5 to 4. So I need a minute to think about this. Again, I've departed from my notes somewhat, so I need to just double check this, my approach so far. Alright, I'm going to do something a little different here. All goes well, I'll explain what I'm doing. There's a chance that what I'm doing is very redundant. I haven't really tested this, but I'm trying to make things as dynamic as possible, so I'm going to see what happens. Okay, I'm going to try and keep things as simple as possible here. I think I'm slightly over-engineering what I'm doing. Because I was trying to avoid using multiple for loops for what I'm trying to achieve, and there might be a way to optimize this, but for now, I'm not. I'm just going to go forward with this. So at this point, we've populated the first slot of the outer list with with the ninja running. Once that's done, we want to remain in the outer list, or rather, okay, so I want to, after the ninja running, which is actually the first set of sprites, after the first set of sprites is populated, I then have to increment 0 to 1 such that I can access the new slot. So that means that I have to close my parentheses there. So what effectively happens is that now index 0 increments to 1. I'm still within the range of 5 because there's 5 slots. I populate, I add a new entry to the outer file path. Sorry, to the outer list. But then here's where things get a bit spicy. So I have here index 1 is assigned to 0. Index 1 is less than ninja running. But we don't want ninja running now. We want to change our range. Our range shouldn't be between 0 and 3. Our range has shifted. Now we want a range of 4 to 5. Or rather, starting at 4, less than 6. So I'm thinking how to achieve that within the same block. And I think there might be a way. I think. Let me just see if this works. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, makes sense. I have an idea. If I get this to work, guys, I'll explain what I'm doing. Okay. My Visual Studio is very slow. Oh, it's like my Visual Studio just frozen on me. Cool. This is where things my code might go wrong. The slot is equal to asset index. Zero. Slot is less than the range, which is going to be ninja running, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's not. It's an asset index. And slot is implemented. And change that. Now slot is equal to ninja running index. Now if my for loop is complete, then I refresh my my objects. Ninja idle. I should move this here. Sorry about my silence, guys. I've been quite quiet. Alright, so I'm trying to make my function as general purpose as possible, because I'm accommodating for X amount of sprites. And I'm trying to make the code base as extensible as possible with minimal needed to modify the code base itself. So I'll illustrate this on my Sketch app in a second. Once I flesh out the code. 0, 1, 2, 3. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my ninja running. Wrong, actually. I'll do that one. Ninja idle, sorry. Yeah, so things get weird. All right, guys. So I'm really sorry for like my 15 minutes. I'm just guessing here of silence, but basically, what I'm trying to do, and I'll do my best to illustrate this, and then I'll run the program and see what happens. I am basically I'm trying to hedge a contingency whereby if I have, say, I'm developing this framework and say I'm given 100 new assets, right? 100 new assets of X amount of sprites. It could be for backgrounds, a roster of characters. I want to eliminate hard coding each file path as much as possible. So what I've had to do just now, because I have a list of string. I'm gonna change my brush. And I'm using a for loop. So my outer for loop, let's just index these lists 0 and 1. So in my outer for loop, I'm populating list 0. And within the same within the same nesting, what I'm doing is that I have the implementation of placing the file paths within my list. So I'm going to do like list 0 at index is assigned to file path of the respective file. Okay. As such. Now the thing is, I want to, as soon as this loop is done, make sure I'm doing this right, I want to go back. I think there's another nested list and a nested for loop. Let me just double check. Make sure I'm on track. Yeah, so my nesting here is wrong. So what actually happens is that there's another nested for loop, which takes care of the population of my nested list, as you can see here. As soon as this is done, this nested for loop will break. I'll go back to here. I have a range of X and Y, let's just say like that. And the reason I took a while just now is because I want to basically say this file path is being assigned a slot, but I don't want to always write PNG 0, 1, PNG, such and so forth. But I want to do it as dynamically as possible. I want to make this process as dynamic as possible, whilst keeping the structure of my nested listings consistent. That's why, if we look back here, I ended up making a local scope object to int slot and asset index. Slot is basically, this actually references a range. So slot is assigned the value of asset index, so 0. Let's see if I can do this side by side. All right. It's important that I explain this quickly. This is definitely a bit confusing. So I'm basically saying slot is assigned asset index, where asset index starts off as 0, as you can see. I already see where I'm going wrong here, because if I'm going up to asset index and I've got one entry, then asset index should actually be 1, which is fine. Less than asset index, then an increment slot. It just means I have to use a different variable. So I'll just say int 0 equals 0. Hopefully I'm doing this right. So I'm actually confusing myself. No, actually that's not correct. Sorry guys. I could just initialize asset index to 1 rather than 0. I'm only seeing like the issue here, because if I'm initializing this at 0, surely I mean, should I be checking for slot? Is that it's the same value as slot maybe? Because I do update slot. And slot does start at 0, so okay. So for slot starts at the range of 0, and slot is less than asset index, which in this case asset index is 1. Then I increment slot. Yeah, this looks a bit dodgy right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, okay, making my first population. Then I'm gonna say, okay, I'm doing a comparison. Slot is slot the same value as ninja running, which ninja running happens to be an index with the value of 3. And what 3 alludes to is the fact that my running sprite is these. I have 4 sprites, 0, 1, 2, 3. These are all the run animations. So as long as slot it might have to be less than equals, but I'm doing a comparison to compare slot and slot value that which starts at 0 up to the range of 3, but I might have to do less than, but I think it's safe to put it like this. So up to the range of 0 to 3, so 0 index, that makes 4. What I do, I update slot. So now slot is assigned the value of asset index. Which is 1. But I need to make sure I'm updating asset index. Which I'm doing down below. I literally just went blank. Yeah, that's fine. So slot is equal to asset index, which is 1. And then asset index now has to be updated such that my range. So this, what I'm doing right now, it's so weird what I'm doing, but I'm actually shifting my range So this parenthesis here is actually slot to asset index, slot to AI. I'm shifting this such that now my new range is here. Slot to asset index. That's my new range. So now asset index, I have incremented, or rather assigned asset index to Ninja Idle, which has a value of 5. So I'm essentially saying, now that we're done with this range of 0 to 3, and I think I've already know I've gone wrong here. What I really do want is 4 to 5. I've gone ahead and said 1 to 5. And of course, it depends on my the structure of my sprites. If I go ahead and go to Ninja Running, that is a value of 3. So I suspect I should grab this. Slot should be assigned Ninja Running. I think. So between the frames of Ninja Running, which are 3 entries. So I'll go back to my Solution Explorer. So really, I should be referencing 3 as I've done here. So my new index starts at 3, but really 0, 1, 2, 3. I feel like it should actually start at 4 to 5. So make sure I got my numbers right. Sprite sheets entries, sprite sheet entries count. Idle. Starts at 5. Actually, it starts at 4, not 5, so I'm going to correct that. So that's that. Oh, oops, that's not right. Should be 4. I really do need to use the lose, so I'm going to just pause for a second, guys. We don't want to lose my trail of thought, so I really want to get this done quickly. So what I'll do, quickly take a quick bathroom break. BRB. I'll be right back, guys. Alright, sorry for the break. I'm back. Alright. Alright. So what am I trying to do? I am trying to effectively shift my range and populate my list according to the range that I've shifted. So if I go back to my implementation logic, I'm effectively just saying, okay, from the range of 0 up to asset index, which starts at 1. You may have to use better members here. I'm adding. First, I'm adding the first slot, which is here. This one here, the first entry. And then I am also populating that entry with the value of slot, so 0, which is the first image, 0.png. And then now where it gets a bit tricky is that when I'm switching the context of the type of sprite, like from running to idle. And so I'm basically saying, okay, if my index has gone up to Ninja running, I spelled running wrong, but that's fine, which is indexed at 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Once I reach this bit, I don't want to populate my sprite again, but I want to shift. So I want to do this shift because I've reached the end of my range. And I want to, I'm telling the program, okay, slot now is not 0, it's not this range anymore. We've updated slot to Ninja running, which is 3, which is 3 over here. So now our range is not 0, the beginning range is not 0, the beginning range is now 3. But I'm considering changing that to 4 because we've already populated 3. Or we might not have because we're only going up to asset index without we're doing less than rather than less than or equal. So this might be okay. Now asset index has to be updated, which asset index is effectively the upper bounds of our range. So it's now up to Ninja idle, which is 4. So if I go back, and I can do some testing to just make sure things are sound. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we have a new range, 3 to 4. So let me do a new page so things are a little bit more clear on my image. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4. First range, 0 to 3 if I'm not mistaken. Running. But then bearing in mind that it's less than 3, it will stop at 2. And then the new range will be 3 to 4. Less than is being used again. So to take into account our functionality here. So we populate this slot. We start at 3, actually. So we populate 3. Is the index less than 4? Yes. So we go to 4. We run our implementation of assignment of the file path. Are we less than 4? No. So then now the new range. Let me just scroll properly. So now we're saying if slot is equal to 4, we now want to update slot to asset index. By which asset index is 4, as you can see here. So now our lower range is 4. I might have to change to less than once again, guys, and I'm repeating myself. Grass is 1, but I'm actually using the wrong enumerated list. It should be index, not count. So grass actually is 7. Which kind of doesn't make sense to me. Something is kind of not right here. I'll have to do some testing. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4. New range is 4. Idle 5. New range should be 6, not 7. Maybe that's why I got confused. So I've got grass over here, I've got background, and then finally at slot 8, I have my white background. So I'm gonna make sure my range is 5 when I switch to grass. Equals to 3. That seems about right. Use idle. I'm going to change it to 5. 3, 5, 3, 5. Because I'm doing less equals and less, I'm really just messing my mind up there. Yeah, that's about right. Sorry guys, I'm just taking this really slow in my mind. So 3 slot. I need to update this. Ninja idle should be a value of my ninja idle should be 5. Let's say grass should be 6. Hopefully, it's actually 7. It's fine. I'll just update that in a minute. EG. Index, entries, that's not good. Let's complete right. Oh, that's why I got confused. The grass is 6, the background is 7. I did that in the wrong way around. Grass should be 6, background should be 7. I was wondering, I was getting some like the other way around. I was getting 7, 6. Grass is 6, background, idle, grass 6, background 7, and then intrinsically 8. So I don't need to put a limit because I'm not loading anything after the white background, I believe. Alright guys, so I'm going to test this out. I'm just a bit wary about this, because I don't want to hard code the number 0, because that's not going to be 0 all the time. So I'll leave it as this for now. And I'm going to expose my code, my file structure via debugging. I'm going to verify if everything, I'm going to verify if my nesting is complete, if my nesting is correct. So I put 2 breaks and I'll hit start. Alright. Alright, I think it should be quite interesting. It was a bit of an invested effort now, but if I can get the functionality correct, it means that in the long run, this is a good approach, I would argue. Because I only have one assignment in terms of the file path. It's over here. There's only one file path assignment, and by using a dynamic kind of approach, I am basically avoiding a situation where I have to say range 0 to 1, 5 to 7, 10 to 12 myself. Now, it's not a case of saving time in terms of scale. As you can see, I'm still putting nested if statements, but it's more a case of if, say, the running animation is updated to from 10, say, to like 20, then all I really have to change is the enumerated list that references how many frames are in animation, rather than me going into the implementation of my for loop. That's where the difference is with my approach here. It's looking at my code in a higher level rather than having to deal with the implementation, and that's a maybe, and I'd say me targeting a higher level of extension rather than dealing with lower level implementation changes over time is a fairly reasonable approach. But of course, debugging will show if I've got this correct. Um, Hopefully, I can step through to the bottom without any errors. I'm so wary about line 86. Okay, I haven't instantiated my file path lists. Go back to the top to my constructor. Do I have a constructor? Yeah. I'll make a new list. And whilst I'm here, this one too. Oops, I should just for assets. I'm copying the whole line. Okay, and I'm going to restart my program. Okay, I'm just waiting for Visual Studio to catch up. Sweet. This shouldn't take too long. Okay. I was actually off screen, so I was a little bit distracted there. I'm still waiting for Visual Studio. Sometimes when the program is hanging like this, I'm quite afraid to even click. Sometimes it just like, I don't want my whole program to just kind of like crash on me. Again, the specifications of my laptop isn't that high, but it's enough. I've actually upgraded my old laptop. I'll quickly show you whilst I'm waiting for this. For some of my older live streams, I was using this. This old Toshiba of all laptops. As you can see, I'm just going to see if the application has loaded. Saying that, I probably hit the brake, so I'm just going to scroll down if possible. Here we go. Oh yeah, UWP took a little while. I was not too sure what was going on there. I tend to disable the diagnostic tool when I can, only because I don't use the diagnostic session over here on the right, but for the sake of time, I'm going to just leave it for now. I'm going to wait until my breakpoint is hit. Then I can expose my nesting structure to make sure I've done things correctly. Okay. So if I've coded things correctly, I should move to line 118 and my structure should be sound. If that is, I mean, I could have still made a mistake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to expose sprite file paths and I should hopefully see some entries. Well, I can see one entry, which alludes to, and okay, so what do we have here? It's really hard to see. I can't zoom in on the IntelliSense, but there's one entry of 3. So there's 3 slots. And what you know, we have some entries in here. So I have, the only issue is that I forgot to concatenate my folder here. So the file path is incorrect. I have to concatenate this with my backslash or forward slash. I always forget which is which. Like this. If I go back to sprite file paths, I'm about 80% the way because I have successfully loaded 0, 1, and 2. So 0, 1, and 2. But because I think the issue I'm running into here is my limits. The parameters I set for my limits are wrong. I probably set 3 as the limit when it should be 4. And I'm going to check that. And it might have something to do with my break as well. I'm not returning the function, but I am breaking the nested for loop. Ninja running is 3. Going to increase 3 to 4. I'm going to go back. And then when I break, what will happen is that I break out of this nested for loop. I come back out here to my outer for loop. Ah, now this is fascinating. I've hard-coded 0 here, and this might be an issue. Because now, but because I'm in a for loop, that's fine, because index 0 will increment. So now index 0 will be 1. Nested entry still has a range of 5. So 0 to 5. I'm on 1. I come back here, add a new entry. Asset index is equal to ninja running. This is where things are. This is an issue. Asset index can't always be assigned to ninja running. So what I need to do, I need to make this line somewhat volatile, because I need to change the fact that on the first round, yes, the first loop ninja running is needed, but then now I need asset index to be assigned to ninja idle. So I've already achieved that down here, right? I don't want this to implement I don't want to run this line more than once. It's almost like implementation logic. So where would you put implementation logic? Outside of your loop, like such. I think this might make more sense. All right, and now we might have fixed an issue with my looping logic. So what I'm going to do is just press save, and I'm going to run my program once more. How am I doing for time? I'm in shock because I've been running the stream for about 2 hours. 2 hours, and we haven't rendered to the screen, but such is the nature of developing graphics-based applications, right? Developing apps takes time. I'm trying my best to be as fast as possible whilst being as clear as possible. But again, this is a chilled stream, so 2 hours does not surprise me that much. Let's get this folder structure out of the way. My Solution Explorer. Okay, so I should hopefully hit my break soon. Sweet. I'm going to step out, and I'm going to inspect my sprite file path list. Again, there's only one count, which is a bit concerning. Not concerning, but it means I have to check through my logic again. But the good news is I have loaded 0, 1, and 2, which are my running animations, but I need to still load 3. So what I'm going to do, probably going to just step through things one by one. Asset index, I need to check what that is. 0, 1, 2. Okay, that makes sense. Asset index, what value am I giving asset index? Ninja running. What value is ninja running? Apparently ninja running is 3. This is the wrong index, I think. This is the amount of frames, but rather I'm dealing with I'm dealing with slots. So let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. Asset index stopped at 3. I mean, there's a couple ways I can go around this. I'm going to go into silent mode for a minute or two so I can just process what I'm doing. Because what I've just done, if I adjust my precondition of my nested for loop such that I'm including the upper limit, I will make sure I'm not clipping my bounds. But I might have an issue when I get to the end of my check because I might get an index out of range exception. I'm not 100% sure. I have to see what happens. I've just restarted my program so I can test what happens. Hopefully my sprite file path list will have more than just one entry. That would be a good sign if there's like 2 or 3. So I'm just going to wait for Visual Studio. Visual Studio just taking a minute to load. Okay, UWP is getting ready now. And then I should be able to expose my lines. I'm going to step out from line 84 to, I think, line 118 or so. Okay, so I'm going to step out such that I can evaluate my sprite sheet. And it's still just a count of 1, so I'm going to have to see what's going on there. But there is progress because now, while I was clipping the bounds at 3, just before 3, now I've included 3 over here. So now I have PNG 0, 1, 2, and 3 as the first entries in my sprite file path list. As you can see, I'll just bring back the Solution Explorer. 0, 1, 2, and 3. These have been loaded. The file paths for these sprites have been loaded into memory. So now it's to do the rest for these sprites on individual respective slots. So I need to know what's going on here. If I evaluate from here, I need to make sure I'm stepping through here. Put 1 here as well. 1, 1, line 1, 1, 1. What is the value of slot 4? Ninja running is 4. Oh. Yeah, that's fine, I think. Oh, is that correct? If slot is assigned to ninja running, which is 4, because I got 0, 1, 2, 3. Let me just check what slot. Slot is 4. Oh goodness, my table's my table was very unstable, as I knew, and I put weight on my table, so I shouldn't have done. I did that. Let me see. Yeah, if I can't figure this bit out, I'm going to step through it via debugging line by line. But for now, I'm just going to try and eyeball this. This is somewhat redundant because slot is already 4. It's the asset index that needs to be updated. I think the issue is here, so I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to get rid of this break for now. It might be the break keyword, but I doubt. I'm doing something wrong elsewhere. I think it's my range. The way I'm trying to shift the range might be incorrect. Again, it might be something to do with this. This just does. I'm not convinced that slot is assigned to slot is correct. For the most part, I might be causing issues. It's fine. Okay. So if slot, which is 0, is assigned to, is the same as ninja running, which is I think 4 or 3. I can't remember now. So this is obviously this if statement on line 92 doesn't evaluate to true. That was interesting. Slot equals to 4. So I have to be very careful of this. Let me see my sprite file path. Okay. Oh, that's fascinating. So I have 2 entries. I have the first entry, which is here. That's my 4 sprites, and then I have another entry, which is empty right now. I haven't assigned a value. I've only populated the list. Fascinating. So I'm on the right track so far. So where am I going wrong? For slot, 4 is equal to slot. Okay. Slot is less than asset index, which is 3. This is incorrect, and thus I'm breaking this line of code. By this point, asset index. I think I see. Let me make sure I got this right. Why? I think I got this right. Ninja Idol is 3, I believe. But let me double check that. No, Ninja Idol is 5. I'm wondering why asset index is 3 and not 5. I'm going to restart my program. Again, I'm somewhat in silent mode just so I can figure out what's going on here. Be very careful with my indexing. Asset index. Okay, I'm just waiting for Visual Studio. Oh no, this does not make sense to me. Right. So okay, I've just figured out one thing is that this is not updating whatsoever. Which means I have a problem with my indexing. I have a theory, but I need to just double check this. Line 92 should break. But I was getting a warning from Visual Studio, almost like an optimization warning. So I'm just thinking about if I'm hitting a kind of a technical snag. Because if I were to put the break on line 91 and then I restart this and I follow through, I'm gonna wait for my UWP session to load back up. Right, so line 91 I've hit line 91. Slot is 0, ninja running is 3, I believe. Ninja idle is 4 or 5. So I've populated my nested list. I'm going down. Right. Slot slot is now 1, that's fine. I'm adding a new entry, which is the 1.png file, 1.png file path. Automatic step over. This is what I'm worried about. So now slot, I'm going to add to my watch list here. Add slot. So I can just check out the values really easily. And I'm going to watch asset index, which is 3. So this is my range, 1 to 3. Right now, in this moment here. If slot is equal to, and I'll write for good measure, sprite, where's my enumerate list? Okay, I'll just forget this one. So I should keep going down. This will only go to true once slot is equal to 3, I believe. Let me just double check the numbers are right. So 4. So just continue. Just line by line. Slot is now 2. Slot is now incremented to 3. Slot is now incremented to 4. So now I'm adding a new entry in the outer list, which alludes to my ninja idle. Slot is assigned to slots, which is the range of 4. Asset index is still 3. Now this is where the issue is arising. My lower index is higher than my upper index, which makes absolutely no sense. I need to make sure that asset index at this point is equal to a number greater than 4 according to my range. I think it's 6 actually. Ninja idle. What value is this? I'm probably going to see the number 3. No, I'm seeing number 5. Okay, that's fine. Entries. I need to make sure I'm in the right place, so I think I am. Asset index 3. I'm just wondering why asset index is 3. Asset index is being assigned here. It's because of this. It's fascinating why my range is backwards, because slot is 4, which makes sense. This is 4, the beginning of my range. The end of my range should be 5, if I'm not mistaken, which I've already accounted for. So why is asset index still remaining at 3? That's my question. Because what happened is that I did get here, asset index is assigned to this value, sprite sheet entries index, ninja idle. 5. So what I'll do, then okay. I'm really suspecting what's going on here. Because what's funny is that if I go and say break at line 94, reset the program, is the code gonna break? And if the code doesn't break, then I found an issue. But if the code does break, then I can assess what's going on here. See, now this is why I'm worried. I think I've reached, I'm kind of getting closer to what's going on here. Because this did not execute. I think it has something to do with this. It might be something to do with passing by my members by reference. So what I'm going to do, I really don't like line 86. So what I'm going to do, for the sake of peace, int start index is equal to 0, which makes no difference other than the fact that I'm not assigning a value to itself. So I should inherently not have an issue. In the regard of like me assigning a member to the same member. However, I need to be careful with how I'm dealing with all these values, because now I've said, okay, slot starts at 0. Then I could just say, I got an idea. So instead of slot, why don't I update start index? Update start index. Update start index, or slot to start index, such that now slot is being assigned to start index here in the loop. There's no breakage, I think. Because now if start index is equal to 4, if start index is assigned to 4, and slot starts at 4, and the asset index is assigned to Ninja Idle, which is 5, I now have a range of 4 and 5. So in theory, it would seem that my code should run properly, but I'm going to test things. Where do I put my break? Input a breakpoint on line 117. No, see what happens. It's funny because in the past I've not always, well, it depends because I usually split my coding into sessions. But in one session, I've not had to spend this much time, I feel, on this animated resources bit. But then again, I am using a different approach, which is a little bit more, should I say, involved. But again, I believe in the long run, by having a system where I can just dump all my assets in one go, but pay respects to ordering my assets, then it only helps the list structure. But again, I need to make sure things are running okay. Looks like I've hit my break, which is a good sign so far. Before I was not hitting my break. I'm going to add to my watch list my sprite file paths property. Oops. I'm going to go for sprite file paths. Count of 1. Okay. This is interesting. So we're making progress. So 0 PNG, 1, 2, and 3 PNG. That's the first element, the first slot. Second slot is completely empty. I need to understand why this is the second slot is empty. So what is the value of slot? It's 4. If slot, so I'm hitting here, if slot is equal to, it's true or false? True. Okay, so I need to know what happens once I hit line 97. Or actually, sorry, more like 995 because then I hit a break. I need to see what happens here. And again, I need to make sure my shifted range is correct. Sorry guys, it's touching on 2.5 hours here, so oh, that's fascinating. I wonder why this. I got to line 107 first. Okay, that's fine. What I'll do, I'll just have to line by line. I need to check my code. Stop. All right. So, if guys, you may want to pay attention to the watch list. I'm gonna have a look here too. So, slot is on 1. Asset index, my upper range is 3. So far, so good. So I've loaded 2 assets so far. I need to load 2 more. That's the third asset loaded. That's my fourth asset. Okay. So slot is 3. Ninja running is. Maybe I should put. Okay, so maybe ninja running should now be. I should adjust that number to 3, not 4, because I'm taking into account 0 indexing. This is a sign. This is a comparison rather than a less than equals comparison. Or rather than a less than comparison, not less than equals. Sorry. Let me try this. Cool ways I can go about this. I'm being lazy. Okay. This should now. So slot is 3. Ninja running, I believe, is 4. I should be able to get down here. There we go. So start index. So my beginning range, I've now set my beginning range to 4. So my range here, I think I had a better illustration before, but anyway. So the range 0, now I've set it to 4. Should probably use a different color. So now my start range is 4, and my upper limit I think I've set to 5. That might have to be 6 because now I'm dealing with zero indexing in a way. Ninja Idol, it's the upper limit. It's 5, I think I should put that 6. Otherwise that's not going to really evaluate properly. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's too late to change that because I'm out of scope. Let me just see what happens. Break. I pressed that too quickly. So this won't evaluate, I think, because of my precondition, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, I'm actually incorrect there. Sorry, guys. So I've just loaded index 0. I'm sorry, my index 0 has a value of 1. So I'm populating how many? I've got a count of 2, and there is a sprite in there. Ah, sweet. So okay, things are looking cool. I have PNG 0 to 3. Okay. Now I've also loaded PNG 4 on its own. Excellent. I made some progress. So now if I keep going, I've said here if slot is less than Ninja Idol. Double check what Ninja Idol is. Ninja Idol is 5, which it is. So, okay, I understand. So I should be good to go. But is that right? Because I'm always going to be less than. I have to breach my limit. I'm a bit suspicious at my code, but I'm going to keep going for now. Grass is 6. Doesn't help that my indexes are one after the other. If slot, which is 5, is less than Ninja Idol 6. Oh. Ninja Idol's 5. This seems to be working, but I don't think I'm correct. What happens if I have more than one frame of animation for my backgrounds? I suspect this is wrong as well. 6. I would change it to 6. I'm just waiting for Visual Studio. How many slots do I have? 5. Okay, so far so good. So PNG up to 3 for the first entry. For the idle animation, see, here's where the issue is. There should be 2 frames of animation, 4 and 5. There's only 4. I've gone ahead and put 5 in the third slot, which is not correct. I think I know why. This slot less than check should really be the same as. I'm going to go through the code line by line. If I still have an issue, what I could try is accommodate for 0 indexing, like offsetting Ninja Idle to Ninja Idle -1. That might help. Where am I? I've got 2 entries, 0 and 1 in my sprite file paths. That's an index. Goodness me. So if I go back, what just happened? Okay, I got annoyed for no reason. Sorry, guys. Okay, so far things are looking okay. Sprite file paths. Let me see. Count of 1. Second entry, count of 1. Trying to see what file is here. 0.png. That's not correct. Made a mistake. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this slot value. I'm a bit wary here. Ah man, my code's not right. Slot keeps resetting to 0, and I feel like I'm getting a weird situation with this. My immediate reaction is to just put this in global scope. Oh goodness me! I'm gonna have to wrap up the stream soon, because it is approaching 3 hours. Obviously, this is taking a bit of time, and I just prefer to have little blocks of like workshop time, like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. Obviously, this took a little longer. I'm doing a slightly different implementation to my notes. I didn't know it would take this long, but I think it's good in the long run if I get this to work. I'll give it to about 3 hours on the dot, and then if I haven't sorted out the implementation, then I'll cut the stream for now. As I've got some work to continue with my day. Okay, let me see what's going on. Check my watch list. Uh, so I've got 3 entries so far, but the entries are not right. Resetting my values is not correct. So close. I'm hitting my breaks. Start index. Slot is equal to start index. Start index has been updated. 3. What means you're running this 4 rather. Asset index was change to like 6 or 7, 6. So I should have shifted my range from 3 to 7, I think. And then from that 3 to 7 range here, as I've alluded to, yeah, 3 and 7. I'm basically firing up my for list again. But for some reason slot is going back to 0 because I'm hitting up 0 to 4 again. And it should be 5 to 6. Interesting. I put this in global scope as well. If I can't get this to work in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to just cut the stream for now. And I shall work on this after. Okay. Try this one more time. I'm just waiting for UWP to load now, once again. Okay. At least I'm hitting my break before I wasn't even hitting my break. Go to my watch list again. Okay, so sprite file path, I'm seeing a count of 5. This is good news so far. I'll verify how many groups I should have. So running is 1, idle is 2, grass is 3, background is 4, and the white background is 5. So numbering seems correct. Now, have I hit up the right indexes? Doesn't look like it. So I'm really close, whereby I'm looping through the right amount of times. 0 to 4 PNG loaded, but now it should be 5 to 6, I think. But it's, again, my slot has just like reset for some reason. Slot is equal to 4. Start index. What is the value of start index? Ninja running. Am I resetting start index somewhere to 0? Super interesting. I want to know why start index is 0. That's the issue here. So I break, go back here to the top, add a new sprite file path. Right, guys, I've hit 3 hours. I've obviously made a little misstep here, so I will come back to this in a future stream to rectify. But I do hope you found this session entertaining, if not educational. Had a little breeze through this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do this off screen or in the next one. So sorry, guys, I didn't get to the bottom of this, but I believe it's something very trivial. But because I want to pay respect to time, it's been 3 hours. I'm gonna cut the stream for now. All right, guys, we shall continue with this. This has been quite enlightening so far, and I shall update you on this workshop. Do stay tuned, and this has been Will on C# walkthroughs. Thanks a lot, guys. Stick around for the next one. See you.